On Tuesday, June 3, 2025, the Manhattan federal courtroom was packed. Every eye in the gallery, from the seasoned journalists scribbling furiously to the curious public craning their necks, and even the stern-faced jurors, was fixed on the proceedings. Judge Arun Subramanian, typically a figure of calm authority, seemed to hold a subtle, uncharacteristic stillness. But today, the palpable tension wasn't solely from the fiery testimonies or complex legal arguments that had dominated the trial. It stemmed from an unexpected source, a secret meticulously hidden within the most mundane of discards, Sean Diddy Combs' trash can. After years of silent toil, an anonymous woman, a former maid, had stepped out of the shadows. She wasn't a celebrity, nor a publicly known victim of abuse, but a quiet witness, one who had seen glimpses of the hidden life of a mogul. Her story wasn't one of explosive accusations or damning recordings, but a simple yet profoundly unsettling revelation. She found something in Diddy's rubbish, a small, seemingly innocuous item, discarded without a second thought, yet possessing the power to overturn an entire high-stakes trial, threatening to expose the darkest corners of an empire built on fame, power, and whispers of depravity. The courtroom held its breath. Everyone pictured this unassuming laborer meticulously cleaning up the refuse of a lavish life, then, by chance, stumbling upon a fragment of a horrifying past. Her revelation, though still closely guarded, had spread like wildfire, described as chilling and potentially game-changing for the prosecution. This wasn't some grand orchestrated reveal. It was the accidental unearthing of a secret from the forgotten detritus of a magnificent yet deeply troubled life. The maid, with the stories she could tell about what she'd seen and heard within the opulent walls of Diddy's mansions, now became a central figure. Her unassuming presence was a stark reminder that even the most deeply buried secrets could be brought to light by the most overlooked individuals. Meanwhile, Sean Diddy Combs, the one-time king of hip-hop, sat at the defense table, his face etched with tension. His impeccably tailored suit couldn't quite mask the anxiety radiating from him. The charges against him were a litany of horrors: racketeering, sex trafficking, kidnapping, arson, bribery accusations that threatened to dismantle not just his career, but his very freedom, potentially consigning him to 15 years to life in prison. He maintained his plea of not guilty to every single count, but could a small item from a rubbish bin be enough to bring down his meticulously constructed wall of lies? The Manhattan federal courtroom became a battleground on Monday, May 12, 2025, as the Diddy trial commenced. Federal prosecutors launched a brutal assault on Sean Diddy Combs' meticulously constructed public image. They detailed a vast criminal enterprise, 2004 to 2024, alleging Diddy used threats, coercion, and manipulation to sexually abuse women through systematic freak-offs. These drug-fueled, multi-day orgies, often filmed by Combs, were portrayed not as mere wild parties, but as meticulously planned events where women were allegedly forced into sexual acts, their compliance ensured by excessive drug use. The indictment detailed years of violence, including Diddy allegedly striking, punching, dragging, throwing objects at, and kicking victims, even dangling someone from a balcony. Behind the closed doors of those lavish mansions, the maid, a silent observer, began to witness unsettling signs of a distorted world. Empty champagne flutes, discarded clothing, and fleeting expressions of fear on partygoers' faces were small pieces she instinctively connected, sensing the underlying disquiet. Diddy's defense, led by Brian Steele, countered by portraying a consensual, if tumultuous, lifestyle. Steele argued the prosecution was attempting to criminalize private sexual acts, while admitting Combs' substance abuse but claiming he sought treatment. They presented the infamous 2016 hotel security video, showing Diddy assaulting Jane Doe 1, Cassie, as evidence of a complex but decade-long consensual relationship, a bid to reframe the damning footage. The emotional core of the prosecution's case solidified on Tuesday, May 13, 2025, when Cassandra Jane Doe 1-inch, Cassie, Diddy's ex-girlfriend, took the stand as the star witness. Now 38 and pregnant, Cassie delivered 4 agonizing days of testimony, May 13, 16, 2025, detailing years of alleged physical and emotional abuse, Diddy's relentless control, and the disturbing freak-offs. She spoke of being coerced into sexual acts, often filmed, and recounted an alleged 2018 rape, whispering, "I just remember crying and saying no." Cassie publicly confirmed her November 2023 civil lawsuit against Diddy settled for $20 million on Wednesday, May 14, 2025, a suit directly triggered by the public emergence of that damning 2016 hotel security footage. This shocking video, showing Diddy violently assaulting her, was undeniable proof of the abuse she endured. Throughout these events, the maid, having witnessed Diddy's volatile temper and the pervasive fear in his homes, held crucial, though unspoken, observations about the true nature of his character. As Jane Doe 1's testimony concluded on Friday, May 16, 2025, the courtroom braced for the next wave of witnesses. One of the most anticipated testimonies came from Mia, a pseudonym to protect her identity, who took the stand on Monday, May 19, 2025. Mia, a former personal assistant who worked for Combs from 2009 to 2017, presented a picture of a controlling and toxic work environment. She testified through tears, detailing multiple instances of alleged sexual and physical assault, pushing the timeline of Diddy's alleged predatory behavior even further back. Mia recounted how the first alleged assault occurred at Diddy's opulent 40th birthday party at the Plaza Hotel in New York in 2009. He allegedly plied her with alcohol before touching her without consent. Weeks later, she testified, he raped her in a guest room at his Los Angeles home. Her testimony was punctuated by moments of profound pain, as she recounted how the assaults were random, sporadic, so oddly spaced out that she constantly hoped each one would be the last. This wasn't a single lapse in judgment, but a disturbing pattern of abuse that began early in her employment. Mia described a life where she was not allowed to lock her bedroom door, while Diddy's security staff enjoyed such privacy. She worked extreme hours, often feeling trapped, unable to leave his homes without explicit permission. In one chilling incident, she recounted how Diddy allegedly threw a computer at her head, shoved her into a wall, and slammed her arm in a door. These acts of violence were not isolated, but part of the alleged systemic control he exerted over his employees. During this period, the maid, who frequently cleaned the very rooms where such incidents might have taken place, may have discovered telltale signs. While she wasn't privy to every argument or assault, her keen eye for detail meant she often found broken objects, inexplicable stains, or simply sensed the lingering tension after a particularly raucous event. These small, unsettling discoveries, accumulating over time, would later solidify her suspicions about Diddy's true character. During cross-examination by Brian Steele on Monday, June 2, 2025, Mia faced aggressive questioning about loving text messages she had sent to Combs years after her employment ended. She had even told him in a 2019 message that he had rescued her from a nightmare. When pressed about these apparent contradictions, Mia explained, her voice gaining strength, "Because I was still brainwashed." She firmly denied fabricating her claims for financial gain. The prosecution also unveiled more chilling details, including an alleged incident where Diddy placed a tracking device on Jane Doe 1's car. This demonstrated a deep-seated paranoia and a desire for absolute control over those in his orbit. The Los Angeles mansion, a sprawling monument to Sean Diddy Combs' audacious empire, blazed with an almost defiant light that night. Inside, the air thrummed with the pulsating, bass-heavy beats of hip-hop, a relentless rhythm that seemed to drive the debauchery unfolding in every gilded room. This wasn't just a party, it was one of the mogul's infamous freak-offs, a meticulously orchestrated spectacle where opulence and raw excess intertwined to a truly chilling degree. Champagne flowed like a river, its bubbles mocking the rising tension, while illicit substances were passed around with the casualness of candy, dulling inhibitions and blurring lines. Young faces, drawn by the irresistible siren call of fame and fortune, swarmed around Diddy like moths hypnotized by a dangerous flame. He, Sean Diddy Combs, the undisputed king of this grotesque carnival, drifted through the throng in his impeccably tailored black silk suit, an aura of unchallenged power radiating from him. His eyes, sharp and predatory, scanned the beautiful women draped over velvet furniture, then lingered on the young men who populated the fringes, a knowing smirk playing on his lips, full of insatiable desire and absolute control. In a secluded corner of the sprawling living room, dimly lit by the flickering glow of exotic candles, Diddy was engaged in a quiet, chilling seduction. His gaze, an unblinking, calculated stare, was fixed on a seemingly innocent young man, whose eyes, wide with a mix of fear and naive curiosity, reflected the terrifying allure of the mogul's world. A soft, almost imperceptible click cut through the pulsating music. It was Alex, a bright, aspiring film student working a temporary gig as a waiter, who had dared to capture the intimate, unsettling moment. His phone, held discreetly by his side, had recorded Diddy leaning in close, whispering something low and insidious into the young man's ear. Alex had no grander intention than to snag a cool celebrity shot, a glimpse behind the gilded curtain. He certainly didn't realize that in that fleeting moment, fate had twisted, setting in motion a chain of events that would shatter his world and potentially unravel an entire empire. Mere minutes later, as Alex nervously scrolled through the image on his phone, a monstrous shadow fell over him. One of Diddy's burly bodyguards, a silent sentinel of the mogul's dark will, materialized beside him like a ghost. With a grip like iron, the bodyguard seized Alex by the collar, wrenching the phone from his grasp. "What did you just do, kid?" the bodyguard growled, his voice a low, dangerous rumble. Alex's face instantly drained of color, his mind racing as he stammered a frantic denial. But it was already too late. Diddy, his razor-sharp senses alerted to the breach, was already striding towards them, his earlier smirk replaced by eyes as cold and unforgiving as ice. He looked directly at Alex, his every pore exuding menace. "Handle it!" he commanded, his voice a low, chilling menace that cut through the music, leaving no room for argument. Alex was dragged violently to a secluded service area corner of the mansion, out of sight of the oblivious revelers. The air here was thick with the smell of stale alcohol and impending violence. Punches, swift and brutal, rained down on him, each blow designed to inflict pain and instill terror. His phone, the tiny device holding the damning image, was ripped from his grasp and smashed beyond repair against a hard surface. With a final, contemptuous gesture, the shattered remains were thrown directly into a large kitchen trash can, a gaping maw already overflowing with the discarded remnants of the hedonistic party. Alex, left a bruised and terrified heap, was then physically tossed out of the mansion, discarded like the very garbage he had become in Diddy's eyes. Hours later, as the first gray streaks of dawn pierced the Los Angeles sky and the last of the revelers staggered home, the maid, an older, quiet woman, whose life was a stark contrast to the extravagance around her, began her familiar, thankless task, meticulously cleaning up the opulent wreckage. Her hands, calloused from years of scrubbing away the stains of Diddy's excess, moved with practiced efficiency. As she pulled a heavy trash bag from the industrial-sized bin, a faint glint of metal caught her eye amidst the discarded bottles and food scraps. It was Alex's shattered phone, its broken screen a dark, silent testament to the night's brutality. The maid, long accustomed to finding strange and disturbing items in Diddy's trash, from crumpled expensive lingerie to hastily scrawled cryptic notes, didn't immediately discard it. With the deep, ingrained intuition of someone who had witnessed countless unusual occurrences within these walls, she paused. Something about this broken device, this silent scream from the bottom of a garbage can, compelled her. She held onto the phone, a small, unassuming woman unknowingly possessing a crucial piece of evidence that, years later, could very well bring down an empire built on shadows and secrets. That seemingly insignificant fragment, discarded and forgotten, was living proof of Diddy's alleged brutality and control, exposed from the very place he thought was safest, his own garbage can. For days, the shattered phone lay hidden in the maid's humble apartment, a constant, nagging presence. Her hands, calloused from years of cleaning the opulent mess of Diddy's life, trembled slightly as she contemplated her discovery. Every polished surface she had wiped, every discarded item she had collected, now seemed to whisper tales of the mogul's dark reality. She recalled the empty champagne flutes left out at 3 a.m., the faint smell of strange chemicals lingering in the air after the freak-offs, and the fearful glances she'd sometimes catch on the faces of young women leaving Diddy's bedroom wing. She remembered the time she found a woman's earring tangled in a discarded men's shirt in the laundry, or the scratches on a doorframe that looked suspiciously like someone had been dragged. The maid knew the whispers, the rumors that swirled around Diddy's empire. She'd seen the way he treated his staff, the way his moods could shift from charming to terrifying in an instant. This broken phone, with its silent story, felt like the final piece of a disturbing puzzle she had been unknowingly assembling for years. The thought of coming forward filled her with a profound terror. Diddy's reach was vast, his power seemingly limitless. She was just a quiet, invisible worker, dependent on her meager earnings. What if speaking out cost her everything? What if it put her family in danger? The decision weighed heavily on her throughout late 2023 as news of Cassie Ventura's lawsuit against Diddy, filed in November 2023, flooded the media. Seeing the public outcry and the immediate settlement, the maid felt a flicker of hope, but also renewed fear of Diddy's retaliatory power. Then came the bombshell in March 2024, when the 2016 hotel security footage of Diddy assaulting Cassie was released by CNN. Watching that video, she felt a sickening confirmation of the violence she'd always suspected. It wasn't just whispers, it was real, undeniable. The shame and fear she'd witnessed in Diddy's homes now had a horrifying face. This public exposure, the raids on Diddy's homes in late March 2024 by Homeland Security, and his subsequent arrest in September 2024, and detention at the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn, slowly chipped away at her paralyzing fear. But then, another image would surface. The terrified young man, his face bruised, being thrown out like trash, or the memory of Jane Doe 1's tear-streaked face after one of Diddy's volatile outbursts. The weight of her secret pressed down on her, a moral burden she could no longer ignore. Justice, she believed, had a way of finding its path, even through the most unlikely channels. She pictured the grand courthouse, the solemn faces of the jury, the judge's unwavering gaze. Slowly, painstakingly, she began to consider the unthinkable. That her small, forgotten discovery from the trash could become the key to unlocking a truth that a powerful man had desperately tried to bury. The case of Sean Diddy Combs was far from over. The maid's revelation, hanging in the air like an unspoken threat, coupled with the judge's unwavering resolve, indicated that the twists and turns would only intensify. Every day brought new revelations, new faces from Diddy's past, and new dimensions to the harrowing allegations. The trial was no longer just a legal proceeding. It was a societal reckoning, a stark examination of power, celebrity, and the chilling ease with which darkness can fester beneath a glittering surface. The weight of his alleged crimes, from sex trafficking to arson and bribery, was finally being laid bare for the world to see. The maid character, initially a minor detail in the larger story, had now become a symbol of truth's undeniable power. She represented the quiet persistence of justice, a testament that no one could hide dark secrets forever, and sometimes the light came from the most humble of places. Her courage in stepping forward to tell her story, a narrative built on the discarded fragments of a life of excess, had shaken one of the decade's most high-profile trials to its core. As the gavel slammed to adjourn proceedings on Tuesday, June 3, 2025, the collective breath of the courtroom was released, a mix of exhaustion and anticipation. All eyes remained fixed on the Manhattan courtroom, a stage where the unraveling of a music mogul's empire promised to be one of the most dramatic spectacles of the decade. The world waited, transfixed, for the next act in the fall of Sean "Diddy" Combs, whose legacy now stood in ruins, exposed by the very real crimes of his past.